Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and for joining me today. We've got a question today that is an excellent practical question from one of you. And, well, it's certainly worth a single discussion unto itself, perhaps many more. And as we go forward, you'll find that these are topics that we come back to again and again and again. And the reason for that is that as adult learners, we need repetition. Perhaps you're engaged in life in adult learning, so you realize that, well, as adult learners, we need to have things presented to us in many different ways and in many different outward forms because, well, we need that. So the 500th time that you hear one of these ideas presented in slightly different words on a slightly different day, where you're in a perhaps slightly different frame of mind and receptivity to the idea, that may be the day that you get it, even though you've heard it 499 times prior. And when it comes to this sort of thing, it's a lot more than 500 repetitions of these ideas, isn't it? Certainly is. So the question, which is an excellent practical question, involves the fact that it appears sometimes, and it can appear to us sometimes, that spirituality is brainwashing us to simply overlook all of the negative drama and stuff in our lives. That's part one of a larger question. Part two goes to the question that you may find yourself asking, maybe today. Why did God allow the separation in the first place? Why did he allow us to run off and hide and do our pitched battle and warfare and our thing here on this spinning ball of rock and go through so much suffering simply to wake up and remember him? What's up with that? And why would we even choose this hellish dream in the first place? Excellent question. So let's unwrap all of that. And I really do thank you for asking this question. With all of all of the questions that you may have, I'm concerned as a guide with what's coming up for you on the path. I am interested in that and I'm interested in talking about it. So again, before we launch into this discussion any further, this is a carte blanche invitation to all of you to ask questions if you've got them. Because I guarantee you that you're not the only person in the world that's wondering the exact same thing. In fact, there may be dozens and dozens of people that subscribe to this channel that are wondering the exact same thing, maybe all of them, right? So your asking benefits people across the world that you are not likely to ever meet in person in this lifetime. Very important. Well, let's take the first part first. It seems like spirituality is simply brainwashing us to avoid the negative completely, overlook it, and just focus on positive vibes only, as the saying goes in world spirituality. Yep, positive vibes only. Okay. Well, the word brainwashing is, of course, fully loaded in the world. So let's make no mistake, as students of A Course in Miracles, that this is a course in mind training. So this may be helpful to distinguish it from the other forms of brainwashing that we see here in the world, while this is a course in mind training. When we think about the idea of brainwashing, we think about somebody that has power over someone else and wants them to think a certain way, so it inculcates them, whether their methods are loving and kindly looking or whether they're torturous and wrong. It inculcates separate others to think a certain way, to believe a certain way, to show up a certain way here in the world. This course is very different. It teaches us unequivocally that there is no separation. There never has been any separation. So, in truth and in practice, it doesn't fit the mode of brainwashing as we see it in the world, where someone has power over somebody else. No, there is no one else. No one can have power over another at all. So let's take a look at the overlook, because there are a lot of commentaries out there in the world, especially if you follow a lot of spiritual people's social media pages. There are a lot of commentaries out there about, well, positive vibes only, and there are a number of presentations extant in the world about spirituality as a nice Club Med retreat. All rainbows and unicorns and really strong cocktails on a tropical beach or the Mediterranean with excellent food and great wine and hot sacks and all of that. Yeah, those images of the spiritual path are certainly out there, and well, here in the world, they get our attention. They're shiny, their form looks real good and tasty and juicy and all of the other attractive adjectives. There's a lot of that out there. Here's what we learn as students of A Course in Miracles. We bring all of our darkness to the light. We bring our illusions to truth. So, in the process, in the practice of training our minds to see things as they are rather than the way they appear to be, the way they appear is not the way they are. In this process, in this series of practices, we realize that we can't hide any of our BS and our drama, our illusions. We must look at them. We bring them to light. The light shines them away. But first, we must willingly bring them to the light. We must look at our drama. It is exactly this that we fear to do because we prefer to keep our guilt and fear hidden. The Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, will not force us to reveal this. We have to do that ourselves. Our inner teacher would hardly be effective as a guide if he forced us. He does not force. He simply waits for us to change our mind patiently and lovingly. So it's up to us to do that. And we bring this to the light, though we fear to bring it to the light. This is an integral part of the process. Now, yes, here in A Course in Miracles, the practice of true forgiveness involves our looking past the form, the outward form, to the content of what is. But we don't, as a practical matter on the path, avoid the drama. We bring it to the surface. Can this be real scary? Yeah, it can. It certainly can. Hence, what we discover is a deep-seated resistance to doing it. So we appear to have what looks like a gradual process here, a day-to-day, moment-to-moment process of awakening, where we allow ourselves to be led as far along the path as we're willing to go in a given moment on a given day. And then the following moment, the following day, we allow ourselves to be led by our inner teacher further along the path, as far as we're willing to go. Rinse, repeat. Now, the second part of this question is one that we all ask. Why did God allow this? This is a question that comes up for a lot of us. So each of us has our own backgrounds here in this lifetime in terms of spirituality, in terms of religion, of how we were raised and what our parents did or did not do, right? What our society does or does not do, that sort of thing. A number of different influences have molded and shaped our conditioning, our inculcation, shall we say, our indoctrination here in the world. And as adult learners, we're undoing it because at some point you have found all of this indoctrination grossly wanting and lacking, or you would not be on the spiritual path. You have heard the call of our inner teacher, which is constant, 24/7, goes out to all of us all the time. You have not only heard it, but you have listened. For that, I thank you. And we all, by the way, thank you for that. That's huge. That's what has you here, even paying attention to this self-study curriculum in the first place. And it's monumentally game-changing if you continue along this path, because we're invited to question the very foundations of everything we now believe. And that's only one example. So the question is bound to arise, why would God allow this? In fact, I asked myself the very same question as a child in Sunday school. You may have heard in past videos my talking about my upbringing. So if you haven't, I was raised in not one, but two fundamentalist Christian churches in the United States. So what that meant in this lifetime is that the first fundamentalist church my parents left, and I, as a child under 10, along with them. The second I left of my own accord at age 15 when I got my driver's license and refused to attend said Sunday school. That was the end of that. Now, many of you have had similar experiences in one tradition or another. And when I say fundamentalist, I mean that the prevailing idea was that this building is better than that building. Our building is superior. Your building is clearly inferior. Why? It's not our building. And our way of truth is the only way. We, in fact, monopolize it. Well, here's what I always knew, and perhaps you have always known as well. It's true. Truth is not property. It is not chattel. It is not anything that can be owned according to our extraordinarily limited perception of ownership. It's not property. No one owns it. It simply is. So deep down, I knew this, and I asked questions like this. I was that kid in Sunday school class that every now and then would pipe up and ask these deeper questions. And it was no surprise to me that the answers were not satisfying. They didn't ring true. We can put it that way. They didn't ring true for me. And many people asked the question, why would God allow this? If God is love, as we are told, which makes sense because it's true after all, why would love allow such suffering? Why would love proclaim itself to be jealous and vindictive and punishing, punishing, cruel, jealous, with the authority to strike you down from on high at whim just because you're going to a different building? Did you ever ask those questions? And if you did, I can relate. I did too. It was very clear to me that God didn't do this, that perfect love is incapable of punishing because it wouldn't conceive of itself, the extension of itself, as unworthy. Love doesn't extend hatred. It extends only love. And I was, as a kid, quite cognizant of this. That made intuitive sense on a gut level. So fast forward to early middle age, what we call early middle age here in adulthood, when I began to study A Course in Miracles, these ideas made perfect sense. God didn't cause the separation at all. He doesn't even know about it because it never took place. It is, in fact, impossible. These ideas resonated with me. Now, perhaps they resonate with you and serve as some sort of an uplifting clarification. That may be, and that's beautiful. Yeah. But you may have a slightly different or a vastly different reaction to that. In fact, these ideas can engender resistance. All resistance is of the ego. So let's just be aware of that. Yet, our conditioning doesn't make these ideas easy to adopt at all. So if you're struggling to relax and trust the guidance of your inner teacher on this, that is very common. There's nothing wrong with you. It's part of the path. It really, really is, because we're setting our conditioning aside. We're conditioned to think that we're individual human beings. We are not. We are neither individual nor, as it turns out, human beings. Spirit is not limited to several decades worth of running around, eating, sleeping, and drinking water, and then crapping out and disintegrating. That's the physical body, which is not us. So we're conditioned to think that indeed this is us, that this thing's needs are our needs, that this is us. It is our life, our lot. And it's short. Sucks. You know? That's our conditioning. So we struggle and strive against one another because we think that everyone else is an individual too. So we perpetuate this round of warfare. Now, you may not be in pitched battle or war or a shouting match with your brother, but in our mind, we continue to assume that we're separate individuals and that our brother, a separate individual, is out to get our stuff. We judge. We feel guilty about this perceived separation from God, and we judge. We lash out. We project that guilt. It's our brother's fault. It's the opposition political party's fault. That's common. It's the government's fault. Yeah. It's the weather's fault. It's my cat's fault for bringing a dead mouse into the kitchen, which I stepped on barefoot this morning. It's always something or someone else's fault. We're projecting this deep unconscious guilt. When it rises to the surface, we can't handle it. So we want to put it out there as far as we can. The target, whoever's sitting right there, whoever pops to mind, that's who. It's their fault. They did it. And that includes God, because we have been conditioned, most of us, to think that God is separate from us. Oh, he is not. That is impossible. There is no separation of any kind. Enter this course. If you're new to it, buckle up and welcome. Yeah, there is no separation of any kind, period. God is, period. What's implicit here? Only God is. In other words, God is the only reality. And ideas leave not their source. You, me, your neighbor, your ex, all of us are referred to as the thought of God, the extension of God. Like extends like. God extends himself. Love extends itself. Truth extends itself. Ideas, in other words, the thought, idea of God, leaves not its source. Oh, capital S, if you please. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Where are you? Exactly. Yeah. It is this that we can find so frightening. We don't have to be frightened of this. You know who and what and where you are. We all do. And it is this knowing, this deep inner knowing that draws us out of our habitual tendencies, out of our doldrums and our dark nightmares to the light of truth, which simply is and shines constantly, eternally. We're drawn to it. You recognize who you are. My hope is in listening to this pixelated image on your screen talk about it a lot, that you'll be that much more ready to accept truth just as it is. Yet the apparent reality here in the world is this doesn't go down super well all of the time. But it doesn't. We choke it back up a lot of the time. We didn't choose this dream, in fact, because it never occurred. Impossible. Ideas leave not their source. And A Course in Miracles bears this out as we go through it in all of its component parts. This lesson repeats itself. The separation never occurred. We're invited, to summarize it, to accept what this course refers to as atonement for ourselves, the atonement, which is nothing more than the correction of our inner teacher, the correction of our perception. We think we're separate from God. Impossible. Rubbish. BS. Call it whatever you want. It's impossible. The separation never occurred. The essence of accepting atonement for ourselves is our acknowledgement, our acceptance that the separation never took place. There are passages in A Course in Miracles that say, not one note of heaven's song was missed with this wild apparent misadventure never took place. This is a dream, and it is just perfectly like to a dream that we have at night when we're sleeping. The images seem real to us. We can touch them and feel them. Feel when we slap our dreamlike cheek, for example. The images in a dream that we have at night are perfectly real. We hear things, we see things, and we do things that we can't do in the waking dream, like fly and be in multiple different places at once. And when we wake up, whether the dream was beautiful, weird, painful, or all of the above, it's as though the dream were never there because we wake up and it's gone. And you know what? It never was there. Never was there. The separation never occurred. So, here in the world, as a practical matter, we do need repetition of these ideas because it can seem very incomprehensible, weird, esoteric, fanciful, woo woo, a pipe dream, and friggin' wrong. Can you relate to any of that? I'm willing to bet that you can because we all encounter these thoughts on the spiritual path. You may be drawn to this material and discover that its central teaching, there is no world, is difficult to grasp. Well, understand that we're conditioned to want to fight. Spirituality is about letting go of that, dropping the fight. We're conditioned to seek opponents everywhere we go. Spirituality is about our accepting that you have no opponent. There is no one, no separate other out there. You meet yourself wherever you go because there is only perfect oneness. Expect resistance, and again, understand that resistance is of the ego. God did not cause any of this. Perfect love does not know of separation. It's in fact impossible. So if it means hearing this idea over and over again, then that is what it means. The entirety of the spiritual path, no matter the tradition that you practice or traditions, is about relaxing. Learning to relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher, that call the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. Jesus, Mike, Elvis, William, Betty, Sue, your guide, your guides, whatever name or collection of names you choose, those are simply collections of sounds. Our inner teacher is inner, part of our mind, that part that will guide us if only we let it. Relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher. That is the core of all spirituality. The more we do it, the more peace we see. And the more peace we see, well, the more loving we become, the more forgiving, and the thinner the veil grows until it is gone. How far are you willing to allow yourself to be led today? That's a vital and a valid question for each and every one of us. So if you're new to A Course in Miracles, again, welcome. If you're a long-time student, again, welcome. These videos are for everybody, and nobody said it was shallow. So I very much appreciate this question because it comes up for all of us on the path. So thank you again for asking it. If you have additional questions about A Course in Miracles or spirituality in general, I'm here to serve as a guide and a help for you. So please feel welcome to ask. If you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that. This is the prompt in the corner of your screen. Click that arrow and join us. Several videos appear each week, and well, we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, and I'm more than happy to pause and take time out for a video or even a set of videos on topics that are coming up for you live. Yeah, that's what's coming up for you. It's useful to have these conversations. So thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you soon.